Well, g'day everybody. Sam Marwood here from Cultivate Farms. Our whole reason for being is to make farming dreams a reality, and a part of that, the work we do is to fill your heads full of knowledge about how to get farm ready. And talking about knowledge, we have a couple of experts here who know all there is to know about the market in terms of farming and agriculture, and they're going to unpack some reasons why you as aspiring farmers need to understand the market, and you should be getting information and learning as much as you can to get yourself farm ready, and also when you're on the farm to have that knowledge so that you can make the most of your farming experience. So we've got in touch with the guys from Mecardo. We've got Robert Herrmann and Andrew Whitelaw. They're sitting there in Ballarat, I believe, and they're going to answer all my amazing questions. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks very much for the intro. I think that's the best bit of being called an expert is always good, isn't it? Because we think we're pretty smart, but when somebody else recognises somebody as important as Sam, well, I'm pretty happy with that.
The problem with being called an expert is when you're wrong.
Love it, gentlemen. Well, can you unpack for us what do we mean by market analysis and for farming in particular?
So, as a farmer, you are growing a number of different items, whether it's wool, cattle, or grains. At some point, you have to sell your produce. At the end of the day, that is what is going to make your income. So it's important to understand what the market is doing, not just what has historically happened, but having forecasts on where the market is liable to go, because markets nowadays fluctuate. There's a high degree of volatility. So you can't just say, I'm going to sell this day and accept it. It's about having a proper implemented strategy, the same as you would have in any other part of your business, whether it's your human resource strategy, your safety strategy, your agronomic strategy. You also have to have a marketing strategy to ensure that you get the most potential out of your marketing. From our point of view, if you were to look at companies which provide analysis on companies for the stock market, we would see ourselves as being very similar to those type of businesses, but concentrating on agricultural markets.
I think, Sam, also we should, we would like marketing and an understanding of marketing to be considered by farmers the same way as they understand their production challenges. So managing pastures, managing animal health, managing water resources, plant nutrition, soil fertility, all those things are really important for farmers. We'd just like them to consider also that how you go about understanding the markets is the same way. And it's not about being a guru about all this. It's just about having an understanding of it, knowing when there are risks coming up and when there are opportunities. And perhaps from our point of view, we think also knowing where you can go for more information when the time is right. So it's about following, it's like Andrew said, following the share market and the stock market is similar, but you don't do something every day in that market. But knowing what's happening helps you make decisions at the right time.
Because I think one of the key things is that if we look at farming, the concentration is on production. So producing more kilos of grain per hectare, producing more beef or more wool. But the reality is that, let's say we spend a lot of energy producing 2% more grain. Is it harder to create that 2% more grain, or is it easier to create 7% more profit on your grain sales? So we think there's more scope in marketing better, or more strategic marketing, than potentially production increases. Because we are, in Australia, farmers are extremely efficient and are producing a lot of produce from the soil.
Can I just say, Sam, though, I don't want it to sound too complicated, and people should remember that we've got a guy with a Scottish accent explaining it, and I used to be a shearer, so it's not that complicated, and it doesn't need to be that complicated. Like everything we do, can we understand things in a way that we can just incorporate into our everyday decision making? That's how we'd like people to view market analysis.
I love it.
Do you want to try and get a word in now, Sam? We've been going pretty good.
Yeah, that was really good. But I think it ties into my next question that I think this is about getting used to this information and getting in your head that you need to have this knowledge. So my next question is around the idea of an aspiring farmer, say, who knows they're probably 3 or 4 years away from getting onto their dream farm. That what is the advantage of them being aware of the markets right now? And I can probably answer it for you and probably build on it. It's having that awareness that they need to know, and to know where the data sources are and the information they need to understand, so that when they get onto the farm, they just hit the ground running with their marketing. Is that the answer for why someone should get to know this now, if they're not?
Well, you used the word that Cultivate is trying to get people prepared. I mean, part of preparation is understanding what is the business you're getting into. So being prepared about understanding where your finance is going to come from, understanding how to manage animals or whatever it is, that's all true. But being prepared also means understanding the market. If you're going to go into some sort of a farming enterprise, then you need to understand how that market operates. You need to understand what its outlook is to some degree. I mean, you don't want to be going into something that hasn't got a future, for example, or what are the risks in that business? What are the variations in price you need to be aware of? So it is about that preparedness, and I know that that's what Cultivate Farms talks about, is being prepared and farm ready.
Yeah, I love it. Well, but I watch Landline every week, and they do the market report. Can't I just get away with that? Isn't that enough?
Yeah, you probably can, Sam, but then you can probably see through some of that. Look, to be honest, that sort of basic information is fine.
Yep.
Is fine. But you wouldn't be making investment decisions based on, reading the headline on the back page of the Financial Review. You'd want to know a little bit more. And I think the important thing is you'd want to know, this is going to sound a bit weird, but you want to know when you want to know more. I mean, when something happens or is about to happening, what do you do about it? For instance, and Andrew, the other week we had a big snow event in Kansas. In the United States, we had a big snow event, and everybody got really excited about that, Andrew. We didn't get any snow here, though.
No, we're not at snow yet, but this is Ballarat, so it's coming up far away. But the reality is, there is so much information out there.
Mm.
So an event in Kansas made the market extremely spooked. Everyone's excited. But the reality is, you don't know what has happened for another 10, 15 days. So realistically, it's about trying to cut out, a lot of the fog that is in the market.
And the noise.
Because one of the key things you picked upon is, as an aspiring farmer, where do you get the data from?
Mm.
People talk a lot about data these days, big data and data analysis. The reality is, if I'm a farmer, I've got 10, 15 different things I've got to do on farm. And if I get a whole bunch of data, and that's true, you can get data. Data is more freely available now than it's ever been.
Mm.
But it's actually getting a message from that data and turning that data into a decision. And I think that's where farmers need to get, trusted advisors to do things for them that, yes, they could spend 15, 20 hours a week analysing markets. Is it the best source of income? Or is it better getting somebody who's doing it for, 6 days a week, every day, every week of the year? Because that's the key thing, is actually turning data into information and then into knowledge to actually make a better decision on farm.
Mm. So where do you guys get your information from, and then what are you packaging it into? What's the stuff that I can click on when I jump on your website?
Well, the hierarchy of our information starts with the raw data. I mean, it has to start with the raw data. Otherwise, what did someone say? Without data, you're just another guy with an opinion. So we don't want to be just the other guys with opinions. We want to have something behind it. And then it's how you, first of all, you have to have the historical data. And that was something that a lot of people, when we go and ask them for it, they'd say, why do you want past prices? Well, that's how we learn what happens in the future. It's the only information we've got to learn about what's happening in the future. So that sort of basic information is the platform. And then our understanding of what a farmer needs or what a farmer is doing, and if we're talking about specific clients, what our specific clients are producing, means we can then use that information in context with them. And we say, look, that our objective is to get our clients to have enough confidence in us that we know about their business, that when we sort of see something that's happening, it can straight away be filtered in. And it's a bit like an agronomist, Sam. If an agronomist rings up and says, listen, you've got to go and put out some snail baits for the canola, you're going to do it because, you trust that he knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
And that's where we try and get with our information.
So we're talking specifically wool, livestock, beef.
Yeah.
So in terms of the data we store, we hold a lot of data on, obviously, currencies, grain markets, wool, cattle, oil and gas,
Sheep meats,
electricity, diesel, fertilizer, dairy, pork, eggs, beef prices overseas.
We had one client come to us and wanted to know if we could find a 5-year price for mozzarella cheese.
Mozzarella cheese.
Yeah, so we got mozzarella cheese. Yeah? Anyone wanting to go into the mozzarella cheese business, we're there, guys.
Love it. I was going to say, what information don't you have? Maybe that's a better question. Llamas?
We don't. Look, we do have a lot of information that is actually just being accumulated, which we're sort of thinking is an investment for the future, because a lot of it's what you don't know. And one of the things for what did he say? The unknown unknowns. We got a few unknown unknowns here, but we got a few known unknowns. One of the things for young people, though, is a takeaway perhaps, is that reach out and ask. We go and meet with new clients. I met with some in Canberra last week, and we go with them with what we think they know or we think they need to know. But, we say to them, if you've got something that you think you need to understand, then ask us for it. If we haven't got it, we probably, because we're getting stuff, we know where to get it. But more broadly, with with young people coming into agriculture, there's a whole lot of older people in the industry who recognise they need young people in the industry and are prepared to help out. And we like to think we're some of the helpers. So if people reach out, ask us about stuff, we find people doing projects at uni, doing research at, ag colleges. Well, reach out and ask, and you'll be surprised how much help is out there.
That's great. Well, you're going to have a lot of Cultivate Farms aspiring farmers getting in contact now. That's great. That's a great offer, and I love that. That's we want people who have dreams and are passionate about it, and they should be out there desperate for information and data, and they should be hassling and hustling to find it. So that's great.
Hustling is a good word, Sam, because there's nothing to lose. If somebody disappoints you in that space, big deal. What have you lost? Move on. But what you'll find is that so many times you'll be surprised as to how generous people in the industry are and how keen they are to keep going. But the responsibility rests with the aspiring person to make the contact. So
love it. What about stories of success? So have you got any stories of someone who's like, nah, I do not want to know anything about the market. I'll handball that off to someone else, and then all of a sudden they've realised I need to know, and they're now billionaires?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah, hundreds, thousands. So we can be here for the next 10 days talking about the number of people that say they don't need to know about the market.
A good example was a pig producer last couple of weeks. And we've been talking to them for ages about, let's try and get some cover for future grain purchases. So, it's something that we've got involved in, is not just on the producer side in agriculture, but on the consumer side. So pig production, egg production, beef feedlots, pizza makers. If you think about it with agriculture, it is such a broad impact on society, and yet people, for instance, people making pizzas know that they need flour and they know it comes from wheat, but they have no idea about what influences their flour price or their wheat price, and so we get involved. But the example I was talking about was a client the other day, and we've been saying for quite some time this market is a good opportunity.
Yeah, and when the market's falling, or when it's rising, depending on whether you're a buyer or a seller, you tend to get pushed into inaction. If the market's rising, you think, I'm not going to do anything because it's going to continue going higher. It gets to a point where the market's as high as it can go, so you might as well take some of that cover. Or the market, if you're a buyer and the market falls, it can only fall so far. But what tends to happen is when it hits the floor, when it rebounds very quickly. So you start to lose opportunities which you could have had. But we've had people in the past, farmers who for years have said, oh, I can do all this. Grain prices, for example, are always great, or I can do it well on my own. And what they do is every year at harvest, they put it into a pool, or they just say accept whatever the price is at the silo when they get to the delivery point. What happens is that you're absolving yourself of responsibility by doing that, because you're just taking what is on offer. And then they complain about, okay, prices were higher a couple of weeks later. But if you take the information and then you have a proper strategy, it's a lot better. But what we tend to find is, now that the grain market, for example, is at the worst prices in almost 10 years, farmers, for example, are now coming on wanting advice for creating strategies. The problem you have is it's a little bit too late.
Yeah.
If they had been talking to us or other people who do business like us 2 years ago, or even a year ago, even in July of last year, they would have had a strategy in place and their prices would have been substantially higher. But the problem is a lot of people tend to only want advice and start to look at and re-examine what they do once they've been impacted by an event.
Sam, there's also, I think we need to make a point that we're not talking about crystal balls. We're just talking about fundamental data and information that's available and turning that into information that applies to a farm business. So there's no magic to it. And there shouldn't be magic to it. I mean, the people who say they know what's going to happen in the future because they, stuck their finger in the air and the wind was blowing in one direction are the ones you've got to watch out for. So one of the things we do is when we publish our information, it's recorded forever on www.mecardo.com.au. Did you get that? You want me to repeat?
We're going to get that at the end as well, mate. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, got that. And one of the good things about it being there is that we can look back and we can see what were we saying at a particular point in time. But it doesn't mean you're right or wrong. It means at that point of time we can assess whether we were making judgments on the information that were correct. And if the information at the time and our abilities bring up a certain response or a certain piece of advice, then it can be explained, it can be rationalised, it can be checked, and that's an important part. You don't want people going around saying, mate, the market always does this, don't worry about it. Markets don't. I mean, if it was that simple, we wouldn't have to be here talking to you, Sam. We'd be in the sun too, soaking up the vitamin Ds.
So everything you're saying, I completely agree with that. I think this is what we want to encourage more with Cultivate Farms, is for people to get in early and have this habit of accessing information and interpreting and having a crack yourself and finding the right people to be able to turn to well before things turn bad, or to make sure that you're planning so they don't. So apart from Mecardo, where else would you guys recommend that people are trawling on the internet or talking to people in the real world even? That's a bit unusual. There might be some options there.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a big space nowadays for advisors in all sorts of different areas. Your accountant, it's extremely important you have a decent accountant who give you advice, not just for your tax.
He has to understand
your business and help with that decision-making process. But the same thing.
Your banker,
your agronomists. I think if you've got staff, I think it's good to get a viewpoint from some sort of human resources for things like, health and safety for a start, because we've seen a lot of accidents in the last 2 years. And, if you're an aspiring farmer, you don't want your staff having accidents and then getting hit with litigation. But I think that's just a key point, is that there is advice there, free advice. It's advice from governments and organisations. But the key thing is that don't do it all on your own. There is plenty of information out there, plenty of secondary sources. If you get those secondary sources, double check what you're already thinking. Yeah. Some of the time, what you're thinking is probably perfectly right, but it's always good to get a second opinion. If you go to get your car serviced and they tell you your brakes need done, it's always good to get it checked at another garage as well. And I think that's the key thing.
That's right. And so any other websites that you guys would recommend that you've seen that are just a good value for anyone wanting to understand the market?
Look, I think you can search around, but one that I get a regular feed from is AgriMoney out of the US, which just gives you every day an overview of what's happening in the big grain market. Yep. Because at the end of the day, we're an exporter of grain, so what happens to the big market's important. Meat and Livestock Australia has a really good website with a lot of data and a lot of information. We wouldn't see that as necessarily advisory information, but underpinning data and market information. Also talks about what's happening in their activities in the red meat industry, which is, I mean, they've been really successful in promoting and developing up the Australian red meat industry. So keeping an eye on what they're doing as well.
Also, the GRDC website doesn't have a huge focus on markets, but it does have a lot of information on research. So new varieties, new pest control measures, all the new technology and new ways.
Especially for grain growers.
For grain growers.
Great. Well, get everyone, make sure you jump online and check those out. Gentlemen, I know you have a lot of things to do. There's little red circles behind you on the Australian map, which shows they're all the places you've got to be going after this conversation. So I want to wrap it up there, but just before we go, and I really appreciated your time, we've got some exciting news to announce to Cultivate Farms members. I don't know if one of you want to announce what that is.
Well, look, when we first saw what you were up to, Sam, and we thought, here's somebody doing something that's absolutely essential, because we hear about the ageing farmer population, we hear about problems with succession planning, we hear about difficulties of getting involved in farming, and to be honest, the young people you're dealing with have a need and a requirement and a passion to get into agriculture. But I've got to tell you, agriculture has just as big a need of them. Agriculture absolutely needs people with passion who want to come in.
Yep.
And we also think it needs people who aren't necessarily from agricultural backgrounds. We think that's positive. We employ people here who don't necessarily have agricultural backgrounds, so you get a diversity of ideas. So to support your idea, Sam, we're prepared to have anybody who comes through your organisation and wants to receive Mecardo. There's someone ringing in now. If they want to, if they send us sign up on www.mecardo.com.au and send us an email as well saying, listen, I'm here because of that famous person Sam from Cultivate Farms, then we'll make sure you get 12 months free subscription. It should provide a valuable platform to understanding the markets, whatever you're in. And we'd be happy to talk through with anybody some of their ideas and answer any questions. And even to the point of putting our hands up and saying, look, if somebody wants to ask us, we'd consider being mentors and helping them out, figure out what they want to do in agriculture.
Wow, that is really impressive, and we really do thank you for that. This is, again, we're really passionate about getting knowledge out to aspiring farmers, and for you guys watching to have that access, I think is absolutely massive. And if you're not if that wasn't you just calling then to be mentored, there's something going on. So I hope people take all this on and start putting into practice, start researching, use Mecardo service, and reaching out to mentors. Absolutely, I think it's a big one, actually. We want to get more people hooked up with those in the know. Can you hear that?
That's our plane.
It's just...
So Sam, I just want to make sure that you and all the people who are getting involved with Cultivate Farms certainly get a clear message from us that we want to help out. And we think we're doing what we can now, but we want you guys and you too, Sam, to come to us and say how we can help. And we're genuine in wanting to help because our business is agriculture, but it's more than a business. It's our passion, and we know that we have to have people engaging who desperately want to be in agriculture. And if we can help out in any way, then just let us know.
Love it. All right, let's do some sort of call to action over the next couple of months. We're going to do a shout out specifically on this topic then to all our followers, and let's pull together what is it that people like the guys in Mecardo could be doing to help attract and retain you aspiring farmers out there and get you onto your dream farm. I love it. Robert, that's awesome.
Terrific. Thanks for having us.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. Everybody jump on Mecardo website, sign up to Cultivate Farms. We might even make it a bit of a fancier and easier process for you to get signed up, but we'll sort all that out in the back end. But get out there and get some knowledge into your head about the markets and agriculture. And thanks again, Robert and Andrew. Appreciate it.
All right. Cheers. Thanks for that.